All right, guys, we're back for the second segment. Christian?
Yeah, awesome. Okay, so second segment of Guess That Entrepreneur. So I don't have a lot for this one, but this one's pretty cool. So uh, very short timeline here, but basically this person worked as a computer engineer at two of the bigger um, like chip companies back in the 80s and 90s, and then at 30 years old in 1993 they co-founded the company that I'm going to talk about. This is their cash cow. This is the one that they're famous for. Um, Fast forward, 30 years. This company is worth $2.2 trillion. So really big company. This particular entrepreneur in 2020 was worth $4.5 billion. And just 3 years later, or actually, sorry, 4 years later in 2024, they're now worth $80 billion. So in 4 years, their net worth um, increased quite a lot. And so I want you to like sort of jump in and try to guess who it is. But they went to
That's
college at Oregon
insane.
State University, right? So yeah, went to college at Oregon State University. Like I said, they started this company when they were 30, almost 30 years ago. And now that company's worth 2.2 T. Okay.
Trillion.
So trillion dollars, $2.2 trillion. Um, this company is kind of all the buzz right now when it comes to the underlying AI infrastructure. So we can talk more about that. Basically, one other thing to note here is, yeah. So this person went to Oregon State University, so that's like right up the road from me, um, and worked at like a couple of the big chip companies before starting their own. Um, I'll give you a little. Well, actually, I'll just tell you who it is because I don't think you'll guess it. It's Jensen Huang. Do you know who that is?
No idea, yeah.
All right. So Jensen Huang is the CEO and founder of NVIDIA.
Uh,
Yeah. So NVIDIA is essentially, I mean, they were a graphics card designer manufacturer, and that was their, that was the important thing that they did back in the 90s. I think basically the way Jensen describes it is that NVIDIA creates, computing hardware that enables that enables like scientific research that is on like the edge of knowledge, meaning like
mm,
the research that is done on GPUs, NVIDIA GPUs, is typically for projects and research that is barely possible without them.
mm,
That's basically how he describes it. But yeah, for the most part, GPUs were really popular for gaming. GPUs are really good at something called matrix multiplication, matrix algebra. And this is important for creating vector spaces. Vector spaces specifically allow you to show essentially like a 3D world, on a computer screen. So if you think about like a frame in, like, if you're navigating, like, let's say you're playing Minecraft, right? Minecraft's very simple because everything's like blocks. Um, but if you're navigating Minecraft, Minecraft is a 3D world, meaning it's a vector space, and each of those vectors represents essentially like a pixel on the screen. And it's not your traditional rendering of like a simple frame on a screen, because that's essentially like a 2D vector. But if you're building a 3D world and then displaying it on a 2D screen, you still need to like have a 3D like model of all of the pixels in that screen, so that when your you know user is like navigating through this world, you can do this really fast um, matrix algebra in order to render the 3D world on the screen. And so that's what NVIDIA GPUs were really popular for. So it's basically graphics cards, mostly for gaming, and then also for some of these really hard science applications that needed GPUs to make them work. Just so happens that GPUs are really great for training AI models.
mm.
That's why NVIDIA has been such a hot topic lately, and that's why the company is now worth many, multiple trillions of dollars.
Mm.
And it's because GPUs are used to train AI models. Um, training AI models largely is matrix algebra. Multiplying matrices together, just taking a block of weights or a block of data. I mean, it's kind of, I don't know all the details about how it works, but basically, matrix algebra is required for training AI models, and GPUs are really, really good at this. They're optimized for this. So that's why NVIDIA is such a hot topic today. And then they have this computing platform called CUDA, which uh, basically allows any company to it's just a really, really good way to kind of take the hardware and then make it usable for any application by like software engineers, or I guess like OS engineers, people that are kind of really, really far down the computing stack, and they can sort of say, all right, I want to use this GPU for this very specific compute task, or well, I guess it would be like AI training task, and I'm going to use CUDA, which is essentially like their, I guess a good way to put it is like their SDK for how to use their GPUs. And CUDA is really apparently a very, very good quality SDK for doing this. And that's one of the reasons why NVIDIA is so popular, because they nailed the hardware, of course, but then they also nailed the developer experience, meaning whoever wants to use these GPUs can use CUDA to just basically take the hardware here and make it very usable for whatever they're doing. Because they the SDK is published, all the documentation is there, and then engineers can go take this CUDA platform and then just build on top of it for whatever compute task they need. And so, I mean, NVIDIA has just been signing these huge, purchase orders from big tech companies saying, I want to buy $100 million worth of GPUs over the next 2 years, next 3 years, 5 years to train my AI models. And NVIDIA is literally, they literally can't produce enough. So that's why they're taking these purchase orders. It's like, I want to make sure that I get, this many GPUs over the next 2 years. So NVIDIA is like, all right, well, we've got a $100 million contract. Let's go raise money from the public markets, increase our manufacturing capacity, and then just make sure we can fulfill these orders.
That's crazy.
So NVIDIA is crazy right now. Jensen Huang's worth $80 billion.
How's the
And
stock chart? Probably stock is probably going up.
it's a wall, right? Like you get to like 2022 and it's just
That's
a wall. It goes
crazy.
vertical. So it's awesome. Yeah, but it's
That is
probably going to
awesome.
crash a little bit, right? It's not going to hang out there for a long time. Also, this was timed perfectly because there was the crypto craze in 2021 and 2022,
Mm-hmm.
and
Yeah.
and GPUs are also really, really good for, you guessed it, mining Bitcoin. So NVIDIA was not only really popular for AI, but just before that, NVIDIA GPUs were really popular for mining cryptocurrency during the Bitcoin boom. Anyway, so Jensen Huang is the sort of next entrepreneur there, and really, really interesting guy. I've been listening to a few of his talks. He's been giving talks for the last like decade. Really, really interesting. Really, really great insights. So I encourage anyone to just go listen to his interviews, listen to him talk. One thing that he said that I just thought was really, really cool, and it kind of it makes sense, right? Because if you look at NVIDIA, they just get all of their bets perfect, right? They kind of, and I think the reason they do this really well is because they're able to shift focus very quickly if they need to. And obviously Jensen saw something in GPUs that nobody or very few other people saw back in 1993 when he started the company. And ever since then, I mean, you can like I there's like people that have worked for Jensen, like sort of talking about how he functions, what he works, how he thinks about the company strategizing. And one thing he said that I just thought was really great was, every morning when I wake up, I look in the mirror and check if the core assumptions on which I based my decisions are still valid. If not, I make the change immediately. And I just think that's a great way to run a company. I heard this quote too from someone else, was like, the best CEOs are not looking for ways to like add new products, but actually like the best CEOs are the ones who prune the most frequently. It's like, where are we allocating resources that we actually just should not be allocating resources? Let's just prune those things out. And the CEOs who do that the most are, oftentimes the best CEOs. They have the best outcomes with their companies. So I just think that's a really, really good insight from Jensen. And also, makes a lot of sense because like there's so many different ways that, NVIDIA could have shifted focus over the years. And I mean, I don't know enough about the world of GPUs and sort of all of the different threads that come out of that broad category of, compute hardware. But um, they seem to have nailed it, right? Because they are the default provider for training AI models. AI research started becoming popular in the late 90s, in the early 2000s. So he kind of, I assume, made a bet that, at some point artificial intelligence and training AI models will rely on GPUs, and I'm just going to make sure that we have the tooling to be the default provider for that.
Mm.
And anytime they kind of added new like foci, um, they probably pruned them quickly if they didn't work out. And of course, that has led to the point where, when the big AI boom happened, NVIDIA was poised to just swallow that market. And that's why their market cap has, doubled and tripled and tripled and continued to triple and double and triple. So it's a great stock. No, I'm kidding. I think, I don't know if it's going to keep going up. I mean, I haven't done any sort of like,
Yeah.
fundamentals analysis on Nvidia financials or anything, but it's probably a little bit overvalued right now. It's probably some hype around it. But Jensen Huang is a really interesting guy. Definitely worth researching more.
Mm. That's really interesting. And it's
Have you heard
funny,
about him?
dude. So I literally was just doom scrolling and I saw like one video of him talking. I didn't know his name or anything, but I was just, oh, founder of NVIDIA or whatever. And that was the first time I saw this dude or even remembered of, oh, that company NVIDIA. Yeah, I've heard of them. And it like probably be because of the insane hype that's been building. So yeah, it's just kind of like funny because he's now really coming into the mainstream with all that stuff.
Totally,
Even though he
totally.
already has been, but like it's just much more so.
Yeah, definitely. And something else that I find so interesting, and it's like one of these moments where I'm like, okay, I've read and learned a lot about a bunch of different successful entrepreneurs throughout the years, and um, this is one of my connecting moments I had, which was Jensen makes a habit of going on the factory floor, talking to engineers, and make like just getting face to face with level one engineers and just random people in the company, and just talking to individuals to get a sense of how things are, and where a project is. And I think that's really interesting because like I think there's this like weird, people have a negative connotation towards micromanagement. And micromanagement, like, yeah, if your definition of micromanagement is one thing and mine is another thing, yeah, we're going to disagree on whether or not micromanaging is a good thing. um, and maybe Jensen is not quote unquote micromanaging, but I have continually heard this as a refrain through all like successful entrepreneurs, and that is that like Elon Musk sleeping on the factory floor, talking to engineers, asking them direct questions about like the details of what they're building, being basically headline, being extremely detail oriented is a character trait that is common amongst all great entrepreneurs. And it's just something that like, if there is one thing that if you see that as a weakness in yourself, I would 100, and you want to be an entrepreneur, it like all of them have this quality. And I can't help but think that they're succeeding because of it, not in spite of it. Being very detail oriented is probably a determinant, like a factor in their success and their ability to run companies, especially engineering companies that rely, technology companies.
Well, success is like kind of the summation of just perfecting every part of the wheel, you know, and just like if you want to be an elite runner, like it has to be perfect. You have to be like top 1%, you know, and you can't just be messing up shit. And you know, they're just making sure that what they're building is perfect, you know, as much as possible, and they just have a high standard for just everything has to be high quality, and that's where the detail oriented comes in. Like they're not just sloppy, you know. So yeah,
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, I mean, totally agree. And I mean, like, this is true of, Jeff Bezos, Steve Jobs, all, Elon, of course, all of like sort of the greats are known for being interested in like what's happening at the ground level. And I also think there's like this dilution of truth that occurs when you have a really big organization. And I think that's probably why, these CEOs, these leaders are interested in getting the feedback from the ground floor. It's because like, if if your interaction with ground level employees and engineers is, oh, I want you to like give information to your boss, and then your boss is going to like give that information to their boss, and then they're going to create like a PowerPoint, and then they're going to present that PowerPoint to me as to like why the thing that they're in charge of is either failing or succeeding. And if you're in charge of something, chances are you want to like polish that thing and make it sound like things are going great. And so like there's this optimism filter that occurs as you go up the organizational hierarchy. It's like every like leader and manager wants to be seen as doing something positive, right? They want to sort of cast like this optimistic filter over top of what they're doing. And then when it gets up to the CEO doesn't really know what's actually going on, what the challenges are, and whether or not these things are going to be, problems. And so like if if you're the CEO of a company, your job is judgment. You're supposed that's your job. It's not actually to like go do something, right? Your job is really to make good decisions. Like Warren Buffett talks about, he says, if I make two good decisions a year, I'll be proud. Like that's all he has to do. He's make two decisions a year. The rest of the time he reads and he consumes information. And so, I mean, Warren Buffett is the ultimate like sort of judgment. Like he's the Oracle of Omaha. That's his thing, right? He make great decisions, great judgments. And the CEO is just the resource allocator of a company, right? They make judgments. They're supposed to like take in information to make judgments. But if the information you're getting from your executive leadership team or any other sort of rung in the organizational hierarchy is not good, right? If you're not getting good information, then you're not going to be able to make good judgments, right? And so I think that's one of the reasons that Jensen is super successful too, is that um, he wants to know exactly how his company is doing so he can make good judgments. And he's been doing it for 30 years, and he's kind of has a perfect track record. Um, so he's definitely another one to look out for and continue to learn from. Yeah, Jensen Huang.
Gotcha. Very cool. Very cool. Any other thoughts?